This episode of the Children's Literature Podcast is brought to you by a box of tissues. Okay, I'll be honest, it was 2 boxes. I just finished watching the documentary Butterfly in the Sky, which is about reading Rainbow, a show that ran on public television for 26 years and taught millions of kids, including me, about how magical and special reading is. The show is hosted by LeVar Burton. He was already a big star when he was cast in Reading Rainbow, but I didn't know that because I was really only a toddler when the show got going. To me, LeVar Burton was always the Reading Rainbow guy, and he took me on magical adventures every single time I watched an episode. I would learn about people who were different from me, similar to me, had amazing lives in faraway places, and sometimes I learned about things that were sad or difficult, but I also learned that I could get through those sad and difficult times. The only other TV personality that I think of in the same way as LeVar Burton is Mr. Rogers. Both of these show hosts dedicated their careers to the idea that children deserve to be taken seriously, that their interests, concerns, passions, and problems are just as important as those of adults. I have to admit that only a few minutes into watching Butterfly in the Sky, I was getting choked up. This flood of memories came back to me about, gosh, it's happening now again. Whew. Okay, I can keep it together, because you don't need to see my nostalgia blubbering. Reading Rainbow was important to me because I would see kids, real, actual, normal kids, talking about books that I could find in my school library or at my local bookstore. I would also see LeVar Burton talking about real situations and real things in life that were relatable and normal. But then there were also all the fun adventures he went on all around the world. Watching Butterfly in the Sky was sort of like this awesome recap of all of the years that I spent watching him, from the time he went to Hawaii to watch an erupting volcano, to when he went into a literal actual bat cave full of bats and flesh-eating worms. Now that I'm an adult, there's many things I appreciate about LeVar Burton, including the fact that he's a fellow Californian and a USC Trojan. Fight on. But I did learn things about him from this documentary that I didn't know before, like the fact that before he was going to become an actor, he was considering a career in the Catholic priesthood. That makes a lot of sense to me because you have to commit yourself to a life of service to others in order to join the clergy. And he took that same motivation, that desire to help people and look out for the greater good in the world, and he applied it to literacy. When I was a kid, all this high-level stuff didn't matter that much to me. I just knew he was cool and fun and interesting, and that I wanted to go with him anywhere, as the theme song said. When the show Star Trek: The Next Generation started, they did this little documentary on TV where he walked everyone around the set. And I remember being blown away like, oh my gosh, the Reading Rainbow guy is going to be in Star Trek. And it was such a big deal to me. And Geordi LaForge was always one of my favorite characters on the show. I don't know if Reading Rainbow had anything to do with that. He was genuinely also just a really great character who I really admired, but it probably didn't hurt that I had these strong childhood connections with the actor who would then go on to play Geordi LaForge. Also, as a kid, I naturally would have been completely unaware with the issues around funding that public television faces. You're constantly trying to scrounge up money to produce shows like Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and Reading Rainbow. And now as an adult, I can really, really appreciate just how hard the producers of this show worked to make sure that it stayed on the air and make sure that it remained advertisement-free. There's a really great clip in the documentary where LeVar Burton is addressing Congress about just how important it is to fund shows like Reading Rainbow, and it makes me sad that after 40 years, people still have to make the case for this kind of programming. Of course, the part that I was really looking forward to had to do with the music on the show. There's a scene where you see the original composer of the Reading Rainbow theme, and he's kind of sitting in his workshop and he gets out the old school synth that he used to create that beautiful opening riff. And I just got completely excited. My hair was standing on end and oh my goodness, that's the sound. He's making it. That's how he did it. I think anyone of my generation If you just walked up to them, know very little about them otherwise, and you just go, butterfly in the sky, they'll know exactly where to go and they'll just join right in. It's such a magical theme song. It's so uplifting and exciting, and the original singer was so soulful and expressive and passionate, and she really, really captured what it feels like to be carried away in a book. In fact, after watching this part of Butterfly in the Sky, I started to get a little idea that I think would be very fun. It might be interesting to see how many of you I could get to record yourselves singing or playing the Reading Rainbow theme, and then see if maybe I could put it together in a compilation. This song was the anthem for a show that helped so many of us learn to love reading. It might be kind of fun if, as a thank you, we sang it back to its creators. Have you seen Butterfly in the Sky? What did you think of it? And what did Reading Rainbow mean to you as a child? Were there any particular episodes that stood out to you as special? Were there any featured books or kids' reviews that you still remember after all this time? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you.